The inevitable advancement of technology has surely affected the world of cinema and its processes. Here we will explore the rise of digital production and its new aesthetic structures that address the viewer's body and senses in unexpected post-cinematic ways. The Paranormal Activity franchise, created by Oren Peli and released in 2007, is composed of 6 American supernatural horror films. Paranormal Activity, which I'll be calling PA, follows a family haunted by a demon that terrorizes and eventually murders multiple members of the home. It makes heavy use of production cameras that are arranged to portray security cameras and other handheld recording devices. This footage attempts to give the viewer multiple versions of perspective and spatiotemporal compositions, while simultaneously making the viewer decipher through the narrative of the present. PA's use of digital tech within its films continues to evolve, whether it be with handheld video cameras, home surveillance cameras, flashback by way of VHS, or smartphone-based video chat in Xbox's Kinect motion control system. Its use of post-perceptual screens and manipulation of time and space makes PA a digital composite. That's what theorists and Jerslev would call a layering of multiple disparate entities held loosely together as if by a wandering mind. Although Jerslev uses David Lynch's Inland Empire as a clear-cut example of post-perceptual screens, the PA series is also a perfect aesthetic reflection of new modes of digital media and the numerous fractured modes of perception in a world of digital screens. These multiple real or digitized screens put the spectator in the midst of a strong sense of visual mystery, allowing for them to follow each screen closely to the end of the film in order to make any sense of it all. What sets PA apart from many modern horror films is its layering of screens, which constitutes regimes of surveillance narration. Through its use of surveillance footage, PA produces the sense that the film is continuously coming into being and confusingly dissolving continuous time. There are some scenes in which we see the fast-forward motion on a stagnant surveillance video or a slow back-and-forth pan of the fixed surveillance. As viewers, we're actively immersed in a time without extension and a space with no clear separation, so the boundaries between regimes of surveillance and observation creates various screen times. For instance, we have the screen of real-time transmission, like when we see the family move into the new house, and we have the dynamic screen of projected film, like when we see the family looking back over their videos. Finally, there's the screen of covert observation in which the families react to the videos they've watched. These visual aesthetics are fragmented and worked on through the ubiquity of these screens. Perspectival framing, which multiplies and dissolves its moving images, produces the questions of what, where, and when, which is crucial and effective in the horror genre. As with all of the PA films, screen aesthetics emphasize surface and image as digital events at the same time as they communicate a fragmented story about the confusion and therefore fear of the present and past. The film opens up with lighthearted home video footage, usually held by the daughter or father, whom subsequently check over their film recordings. As the film progresses, the planes of what's real and what's not becomes blurred, making the origins of recording spaces and screening places vague and up for interpretation. Digital video's ability to portray long takes of surveillance videos and homemade videos creates a sense of intimacy, immediacy, and interiority. A strong sense of temporal presence is therefore projected between these two planes, and the unknowingness of this temporal presence is what invokes the shocks and jumps in the audience once the notion of a demonic presence comes to light. The demon takes on that space in which real meets the virtual, producing a form of life out of the coherence of these digitized screens. Here, we can consider Shane Denson's theory on discorrelated images in a post-cinematic media environment. He says these moving images have undergone a discorrelation from human body subjectivities. PA still provides us with images that follow in the lines of classical cinema, but these images are mediated in a way that confuses our distance of perception. An example of this would be the spatial distance in relation between phenomenological subjects such as the members of the household and the objects of their perception, which would be the demons. At the center of this transformation to post-cinematic techniques is the post-cinema screens and cameras, which don't just act as intermediaries in relaying neutral images between fixed subjects and objects, but instead act in a transformative manner as mediators of the subject-object relation itself. So to speak, PA's technologies don't just produce new images, but they produce completely new models of perception and agency, placing the viewer in a unique relation to the images and the structure of their mediation. Denson's concept of the crazy camera with respect to diegetic and non-diegetic planes of reality fails to situate spectators in a consistently and coherently designated viewing position. Mediation, therefore, is no longer neatly between subject and object, since it has the digital ability to act on both. This is what film critic Jim Emerson would name chaos cinema, potentially transforming the material basis of subjectivity to unaccountable measures. We as viewers are able to fill the gaps of stagnant surveillance footage with a demonic presence and perceive staggering stages of emotion and imagination when watching the handheld footage of an unknowing house member. Different from the distinct conceptions of classical cinema, post-cinematic cameras are defined by the indistinct ways of recording, rendering, and screening, which further proves the effective side of a cognitive non-relation with technological infrastructure. Grasping the post-cinematic image as not an objective entity, but as a metabolic agency, enables an expanded media ecological process of transformation that articulates a material effect across bodies and places. Finally, let's look at PA4 and its unique use of laptop or smartphone-based video chat and the Xbox's Kinect motion control system. Its ability to regulate between diegetic and spectral shocks and manipulate rhythms of suspense defines the temporal and effective quality of the film. Kinect technology emits a matrix of infrared dots to integrate bodies and spaces into computational game spaces. This system marks the discorrelation of digital perception from human perception. This matrix is unseen by the human eye and is only made visible through the processing of a camera's night vision mode. Therefore, PA4 provides a perfect example for the effective impact of the digitalization and the bypassing of cognitive and narrative motivation through digitization. This effect pinpoints all the video sensory action going on around us, which is completely separated from human perception, yet very involved in the temporal and affective fluctuation of our day-to-day realms of work and play. PA displays these tropes in the form of a 21st century horror film. The disruption of space comes when evil forces invade the private domestic home. The manipulation of time that's accompanied with temporal patterns of anticipation, dread, and urgency occurs when the characters or audience are waiting for something to happen. It also includes the times where they're so overwhelmed by the force that it becomes impossible to perceive what's happening clearly. PA represents these modulations of the rise of digital tech because their new technologies respond to the forms of spatio-temporal compositions. The sequences lack continuity editing due to its portrayal of home video footage, and the camera shakes and shifts from one object to another, unlike the shots used in classical cinema. Both handheld and surveillance footage features jump cuts, but they lack expression since there's no formal editing from which they can be compared. It brings about an awareness to the video recording apparatus and the ability to turn it on or off. In the Paranormal Activity films, cameras are irrational, images are discorrelated, and media generally are post-perceptual. We are bound up in and transformed by the process experience of digital mediation. Together, sound and image mediate an experience of the expanded realm of effect, which swallows up, discorrelates, and metabolizes subjective perception and perspective in the space of the post-cinematic world.